How's it going, man? I'm giving a few more minutes for my regular people to show up. They usually trickle in for the first 10 minutes. So I'll get started when I have a couple more people here. But basically, today we're going to be doing single stick stuff. That's a little bit more, it kind of shifts from sort of basic single stick into some actual fighting combinations that are a little bit more advanced than just kind of like 1, 2, but it's nothing too crazy. It shouldn't leave you behind. So that's that. What's up, Steve?
What's going on?
How you doing, man?
Tired.
Tired? Yeah, you sound tired. You were up late last night, huh?
It's like every night. Yeah, I went to sleep at like 7. Like I finished working at like 3:30. I don't know, I've been working retarded hours.
Damn.
Hopefully just this month. Hopefully next month I think it's gonna start getting better finally.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're still working completely remotely, or are you in a couple days a week?
Both, both. But yeah, soon I'm gonna be just like living on site. Like starting next week, part of it. Yeah.
Rough. Like, do they have some sort of lodging for you, or you're just gonna sleep at your desk? Like,
No, you have to buy your own shanty.
yeah,
You know, you
right.
work in a wooden box and you die in a wooden box, right?
Yeah, apparently, man. F that.
It's all good. It's a
Yeah.
job.
Got a couple more people. I think Sherlin's gonna show up. Michael Underdown, um, Greg McNamee's guy, Donnybrook. He's got like this dude with a ponytail and the big beard. You definitely met him at least
Oh
once.
yeah, shorter guy, right?
Yeah.
He's a good guy. I
He's
don't know him
coming.
very well, but
He was here last weekend for the evening class, and
nice.
he's jumping on in a few minutes.
What's his name?
Something. Michael Underdown. He does like dog training. That's like his main deal. And I know he had some sort of trouble case that he was dealing with today. But
apropos dog training.
yeah, right. So I came up with a bunch of we already kind of talked a little bit about what I've got going on with the sort of Tri-V material. But did I show you so Lonely this week is doing the one side of the X thing?
Yeah, and YouTube.
Yeah. Did I show you the European the panels out of the European manual with literally that move? Yeah, it was pretty cool. So the other thing that I found was sort of like their starting position, which I hadn't really connected all the Messer stuff in the whole book that's coming from these two sort of structures. The one guy with that kind of low structure on the outside and the other guy from like coming from above. But that's how you can kind of, if you don't know to put those things together, none of these later panels mean anything. Because like, you're like, well, how did they get there? You know what I mean? Like, how do you wind up in that position where he's cutting like this one where it goes from, so now you understand, oh, he's coming from low back up through to high and then finishing back down on that same cutting angle. But yeah, so it's interesting how, you know, the even new things are still pretty old.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you rediscovered.
Whoop, lost you. Yeah, it's very much a rediscovery kind of thing for us. I
Oh,
think,
there we go.
especially with you know, especially with things like the historical European martial arts, because all we have is those pictures. We don't really know what they looked like when they moved. None of that stuff is on video anywhere. It's just you know, these hand drawings that aren't even that anatomically good. But anyway, I don't know. I was expecting these other guys, but I'm gonna give them another minute or two, and then fuck them. We'll get moving onward. I've got a bunch of just standard 1, 2, 3, 4 combo kind of stuff, and then some stuff with the footwork. A couple of combos off of just throwing the forehand. Because one thing that I've been talking to the kind of newer guys about is, you know, not just throwing one strike. when you're in a fight, a lot of the times when you're starting out, you know, you're just kind of throwing single strikes, or just kind of like doing these sorts of things. That guy Carlo, I don't know if you interacted with Carlo at all yet, but he's one of the guys that I've been doing one-on-one classes with during the week, and he's been coming to some of the group ones as well. But he sparred this week for the first time. He managed to track down a dude in his area that did some kind of like historical fencing that was willing to spar him with padded sticks. And he was all cranked up. He's like, I want to spar with rattan. And I was like, maybe go with the padded sticks, bro. Like, you bought some gear from Pappy, which is awesome. Like, so, you know, support my friend, but like, go with the pads. And he sent me the videos, and he was okay. He was pretty good with the short knife dueling. The other guy was very rigid. He was very like hand on hip, front hand out, you know, very like sort of saber fencing style stuff with his knife work. But he was quick, and he was really coordinated, and the guy's got like a purple belt in jiu-jitsu or something. So he's a legitimate martial artist, even if the other stuff was strictly hobby. Like, he at least understands. But he was pretty decent. But like, the biggest thing from watching Carlos spar for the first time was, one, drilling into people angles, cutting angles that are proper. Because a lot of, you know, like, people will get kind of flat. They start just kind of like throwing like this a little bit when they're sort of first starting out. He was doing a little bit of that. The other thing he was doing was like these taking kind of things, like trying to hit like this. I'm like, all right, we need to get rid of all that shit. We need to throw all that shit out the window. Like, come on, man, cut properly. Like, you've been doing it, you know. But it's also, with some people, it's forcing them to slow down. A lot of people really want to just throw with power and speed right out the gate, and it's like, the one I always, well, depending on who it is, I'll be like, all right, you know, if you're having sex and you're not doing it right, going faster doesn't make it better. Like, same thing here, man. Like, going faster is not making it better. You're just throwing spastically harder, and it's not going to do you any good. So
if you're getting hit too, it's like, you know.
Yeah. He did okay. He's a tall, agile guy. And like I said, he does some martial arts stuff too outside of doing stuff with me. So, but he was all fired up and wanted to do rattan. And I was like, I mean, go for it. Fuck yeah. I told this guy, he was asking me about training weapons, and I gave him a couple suggestions, and then, like, jokingly, I was like, don't be a pussy, use a sharp blade. And he cut himself like a day later, and I went, dude, I was kidding. And he was like, well, I know, but, you know, I also decided, like, I would use a sharp blade to train. Like, don't be a pussy. And he says it to me sometimes. I'm like, probably should, like, I now realize the power of my own words in that case.
Yeah, put less sugar in the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, maybe that was too much Kool-Aid. Sorry. Like, he's a firearms guy, so I was like, dude, would you just give somebody a gun and be like, no, dude, fuck going to the range. Just start popping off shots. Like, no, dude, blades are dangerous too. But I don't know. Anyway, man, it doesn't. I don't know. Maybe Sherlin's boyfriend had a good enough Valentine's set up that she decided she wasn't coming tonight. Usually she's here. She's sitting in the gym drinking a White Claw and eating chicken nuggets, waiting for us by the time I turn this thing on. Which I find.
She's drinking White Claws?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. She works her way. I mean, that girl weighs all of 80 pounds. So I could imagine 2 White Claws and she's good to go. But,
yeah.
I mean, she does pack in the chicken nuggets too. You know, it's a balanced meal. It soaks up the booze a little bit. She's also the only one with access to a proper gym. The rest of us are training in our houses.
Yeah, seriously.
But I'd be if I had.
Gym is that? Is that Nathan's gym or like what? Where is she trained from?
I don't know. I don't know because that's not that place in Chatsworth.
But she trains with Nate with
Faithful. She does. He brought up that all his guys are good to go for a tribal. I'm not saying in May buy a plane ticket, but in May buy a plane ticket because we're fucking doing this shit. I think I've been vocal for 2 months, and Foo's been like, we're gonna wait, and I've been like, let's do this, man. I want to fight. Everybody else wants to fight. Let's fucking do it. So I'm telling you straight out, there is gonna be one. So if you want to come, this might be the time to start dropping hints on Allah, because I think we're gonna get at it, but we'll see. I don't know. I know that, like I said, his clan was up for it. Obviously, NoHo is. I'd be down. I will drag Dean kicking and screaming by his friggin' beard to come down. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, and then
can't afford to miss. The only thing I'm afraid of is I can't afford to miss like fucking 2 weeks of work.
You don't have to miss 2 weeks of work. You're gonna miss like maybe Friday and Monday. I'd probably take
have to quarantine or anything. You know what I mean? Oh, if it's a regular gathering, I don't mind. But
it's gonna be in May, so you're talking 3 months from now anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see what happens. You
know. Yeah. I'm just saying, put it out there because California's loosening back up now that things are over. Although in the political aftermath of who knows? We might all have to go into lockdown again out of punishment. Anyway, all right, I'm gonna start running through this stuff because anybody who's not here can basically go get fucked at this point. So, all right, we're gonna start with just like 1s and 2s with rising strikes also. You got some manner of implement of death over there. Yup. What do you got? Oh, nice. Sword. Excellent. Perfect.
Dog.
Oh, that's better. Forgot about making my screen big. All right. So we're omitting the horizontal strikes for a minute. So we'll just start with right hand. We're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. So forehand, backhand, rising forehand, rising backhand. 1, 2, 3, 4. He's like, Dad, stop swinging your sword around. 2, 3, 4. Right. So these are sort of like what I would consider the basic cutting angles on the diagonal. Hey, your dog is upsetting my dog now. No, I'm kidding, dude. You don't have to mute it. I'm just fucking with you. Rascal's a good guard dog. So do a couple more of those and then switch hands. 1, 2, whoops, 3, 4. Ryan was on the call this morning with Chris Sari, and Chris doesn't turn on his camera. And so we went through almost the whole thing, and Chris finally said something. And I was like, have you been here the whole time? Yeah, man, it's been here the whole time.
I think he's having problems with it. Like every time he's on a Zoom, it like freezes. So
yeah, he did, like I said, he didn't have his camera on today. He just did the audio from his end. But all right, cool. So now we're gonna link those combos into the footwork. So we're gonna start with the forward triangle and the female triangle. I keep having to remember to move back because I got my fan right here. All right, so step out to the right, step out to the left, step out to the right, step out to the left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. So you do, I'm not like, I'm just observing, like, obviously, man, you're fucking experienced. You're going to do what you're going to do. But you do a lot more of like a cover motion with your 3s and 4s, with your rising. Whereas like what I'm kind of showing people, I'm going both ways. So I'm talking about how, if you're in a tight situation, this might be the cut you have. You know what I mean? Like, as opposed to cutting all the way out here. What I was having them cut out as opposed to like in tight, because the in tight becomes a block too. You know what I mean? So it's interesting. That was like your first instinct is to go to the blocking, because that's what you're probably the most used to throwing that motion, is to cover your head, right?
Just looking to chop off the hand.
Yeah.
Manuscript.
Chop the hand.
Yeah. Got you.
Chop the hand. Oh, they have it. So close the door. Hold on. Hello.
I'm sorry. Yeah, mine, Hayes, and a couple others.
Cool.
They don't have a good selection there.
Yeah, no, that place sucks. The other one's better. Heather's awesome. She went and got me beer.
Beer run.
She's singing beer run. All right. So yeah, forward triangle. Cut, 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 cut. And as you're doing, tighter cut, tighter cut. So I was also, one of the things that I was focusing on today, we're both using swords. So that kind of like informs your body mechanic with your hands. But I was telling those guys today, when you have a sword, obviously you want to line up and strike with the blade itself. But with a stick, instead of guiding your strikes with like leading your strikes with your knuckles, which that's how I do it anyway. Like I always treat the stick as if it's a sword. But I said, if you can get power out of throwing your backhand like this and striking with this part of the stick is round. So if you can get, and you can throw really hard that way, as opposed to the kind of more direct sword cut style, like it's not wrong. Obviously with a sword, you'd be just smacking with the flat. The other thing that I talked about was when you're coming up on that angle, depending on what your intention is, using the actual spine of the sword to deflect your opponent's blade, especially once we start getting into, I'm actually kind of cart before the horsing right now, but using that back edge to kind of get behind and merge your opponent's blade, throw it away, and cut in that way. You know what I'm saying? Like, so if like in the manuscript, right? Instead of coming from here and cutting up and aiming for the wrist, right? I come up, same line, I use the back edge, right? And then throw my opponent's blade away. Yeah, yep. And especially you immediately picked up what the next step was angling to the outside, right? So we're throwing it away and cutting to the head. Yeah. And you can do it from anywhere. You can do it from like our more active sort of stance, or you can do it from that more traditional fencing kind of stance. It doesn't really matter. But that's, I think the concept in Filipino martial arts is fraile. Yeah. I think I've heard it called fraile. But yeah, I think, you know, it works both ways. So I generally would come back this way. I cut down, I cut back up. But circumstantially, you could cut down, cut up, and come in. Anyway, so that's our kind of forward triangle. Actually, let's do it with the other hand for a minute, just for posterity's sake. Cut that way, cut that way, cut up, cut back, cut, 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 cut. All right, so then we're gonna do it on the reverse triangle, on the male triangle, right? So now we're working from the point of the triangle back along the legs. And we're gonna use the same strikes, but now instead of stepping back to my right and cutting forehand, you can do this, but especially if you have a sword, you're putting your leg kind of in the path of danger here. Like you'd like to think you won't cut your kneecap off. Like it would be best to think that, but who knows if you do, or if you slam yourself with a stick in the knee, like that shit hurts. My knee hurts right now. So to avoid that, instead of cutting forehand on the step, we'll cut backhand. So instead of cutting at ourselves, we're cutting into the empty space. We're cutting that way. So this is race. The footwork that I'm going over is portions of what I call the asterisk footwork, and it sort of represents your first step in any direction that you might be going, and it works off of where's my visual aid? Oh, it's in my backpack elsewhere. I have a little diagram I drew. Basically, it's an asterisk. So you have a triangle going this way, a triangle going that way, and then lateral steps. So just pardon my dirty floor. Steve already knows all this stuff. So just the black screen, Steve, is this guy Race that came to check things out today. But
what's going on, Race?
Steve is a fellow dog brother, so he kind of already knows what's up. So the footwork that I'm getting into here is a forward step on the 45 to the right, a forward step to a 45 on the left, lateral step, 45 back, 45 back. So those can be combined in any way to create a matrix of triangles and diamonds and sort of different footwork patterns that all combine to make, to create your fighting footwork. There is forward and back as well, but for the sake of these drills, we usually just do the sort of triangular footwork. Triangles, patterns of 3, the number 3, those things are all kind of important in Filipino martial arts. But all right, so just so you have like a little bit of background on it. Filipino martial arts is a really broad topic. The Philippines is a giant chain of islands. Every city, village, sometimes everybody's grandpa all have different systems of doing similar things. So Steve and I both have some mutual threads through the Dog Brothers. There's a Dog Brothers style of martial art, and then I also have a lot of experience in Pikiti Tersha Kali, which is it's a fairly blade oriented, but also they sort of do the full contact stick fighting as well. Whereas other styles sort of concentrate on more of like a tournament based stick fighting style where they wear these big padded jackets and helmets. And we talk a lot of shit about those guys. They talk a lot of shit about us. It's just kind of how it works. We know that we're better and we're tough, and they think we're stupid barbarians who aren't as sophisticated. So that's kind of Filipino martial arts in general. But anyway, so a lot of the terminology that I use comes from different places. That's sort of one of the standard jokes of Filipino martial arts is that, one of the only consistencies is you're not allowed to call things the same thing from style to style. You have to have a different name for it. Like number 1 for one group is going to be like number 14 for another. Anyway, back to so yeah, here instead of stepping back on that angle and cutting into our leg, we're stepping back and cutting the backhand, and then we switch to the other side and we cut the forehand, right? And we step here and we cut the backhand and we cut the forehand. Backhand, forehand, backhand, forehand. Oh, I got something buzzing over here. Not showing up. Back. Whoa, no. Back. Back. Backhand. Backhand. Oh my. All right. So that kind of links strikes 1 and 2 in different ways. I'm sorry, 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? From there, you can kind of start to build your alphabet. Like that gives you a baseline to begin from. So then from there, we want to start on some basic kind of 1-2 combinations outside of just throwing the X, because you can throw the X all day and that is a good starting point for you. You need to begin to do other things than throw the X. So I like to throw 1s and 2s to kind of warm somebody up and see what their reactions are to that sort of thing. Most people will kind of match you as you throw 1 and 2 or start to block as you throw 1 and 2, but you can begin to draw out what their responses are going to be by kind of throwing these generic strikes. But from there, you want to start throwing combinations that are going to land. So one of the most basic combinations in stick fighting, like I consider it the jab cross. Like if you were going to hit somebody with a perfect 1-2 and knock them out, it would be this. It's a number 1 or a forehand diagonal followed by a backhand horizontal. This is Top Dog was famous. Top Dog was the best guy when Dog Brothers started, and he's a big, agile man. And even as an old man, you wouldn't want to fuck with Eric at all. It's not a good call. So the first part of it is a forehand strike coming on a diagonal downward angle, and then a backhand strike coming at a horizontal angle. You can use your offhand to power assist a strike like this. It's very reminiscent of a baseball swing. For a righty, it would be a swing from the other side of the plate. You'd be standing here rather than here. But the horizontal backhand, especially once you learn to kind of put your hips in and the kinetic chain from your feet coming up through your hips and translating through your arms and shoulders and everything allows for probably, I would say, the most powerful single shot in stick fighting is the horizontal backhand. Steve, do you have something to say?
I agree.
Oh, I agree. All right, yeah. So once someone's got,
I've given them and I've eaten them.
what's that?
I said I've given them and I've eaten them.
Yeah, it's not a good place to be on the receiving end of that one. But anyway, so yeah, after you've got 1 and 2, the ability to throw a power backhand is probably the next most important strike. And the power backhand can also come off of your forehand rising shot. So once you've kind of shown them this a few times, then you can show them this. Now, if they block this, if you throw this number 1 strike, right, this forehand diagonal strike, guys will start to roof block it. They'll start to, I should move this up. Right, the counter to this is this. So guys will start to roof block and then counter from there. So they'll start to do this kind of thing where they block and strike. So for you, once you've shown them this a couple of times, once you've shown them this a couple of times, throw one of these, because if they've kind of read you to where they're blocking like this in anticipation, but your cut comes from below, you'll attack the inside of their arm. You're really aiming for the thumb with a stick. That's pretty much the shittiest place to get hit when you're like this, is blasted straight up in your thumb. So that way you hit them, disable the hand, and then take the head with the backhand. So you get a few a few diagonal downward strikes with the backhand, right? And then a few upward. Switch to the complementary hand. Fire off a few of those. And then sort of the next link in the chain here is going to be the thrust. So kind of same idea. So rather than this being something that would come off of strictly the forehand, I would throw this off of either of the descending diagonal shots. So like we have a descending forehand and a descending backhand. Then you have a rising forehand and a rising backhand. So that first one where we're coming with a backhand backhand horizontal, it loads to the same chamber when you throw the forehand first. In this case, it doesn't matter if you throw forehand or backhand, it loads off the descent. Right? So thrusting with a stick, it's a lot less of a big deal than thrusting somebody with a blade. I have an in-person student here in Fresno that I was working with yesterday, and Dan's a big guy, and I put my stick against my rear hip, and I just said to him, like, walk forward, like come at me like you're gonna get me. And I just went like this, and I was able to like go into him like 1.5 inches with just the stick, just from popping my hip forward as he was walking forward. Yeah, kind of like that. Like that scene in Seven. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that was a scene in Seven, but anyway, you know, I explained to him, I was like, so the stick, like that kind of was like, ooh, oh, why'd you do that? But with a sword, you'd be dying right now. Like you'd literally be bleeding to death just based on that. So it's not the same thing to have to worry about. So the stick, you really got to worry about giving them some power if you're going to thrust. Thrusting in the face is fairly, yeah, so that's like Phil style.
Yep, exactly.
Like sled dog 101. You block the head and just come right in with the thrust to the guts. So that works good. So to come in behind if you're out here and you step through, cover the distance with your roof block, boom, block, especially if you can catch his arm, and then follow the momentum of the block for the thrust. That one's pretty savage. It'll usually gouge somebody pretty good. And if you land right into the squishy part under the solar plexus, it really fucks somebody up. But yeah, that's I'm gonna teach that off my like closing from the roof block. I have a whole bunch of shit that's gonna be a Bob class. I'm gonna tell people like a couple of weeks in advance to either create some sort of torso head-like thing or get a heavy bag or get their Bob or whatever they got. Because or your plant. yeah. That's all you need. You tie a stick into that thing, it'll be good. So where was I? Yeah, the thrust. So it works off of either forehand or backhand diagonal. So forehand diagonal to thrust, backhand diagonal to thrust, right? Forehand thrust, backhand thrust, forehand thrust, backhand thrust. So here, instead of following all the way through, like we've been kind of cutting through and recycling to the next logical position, here we're stopping, almost like Krabi. You know, in Krabi, when you cut down but kind of stop, we're sort of doing that. We're cutting down and then we're entering with the thrust. See, that's where we need Sherlyn here to poke her face onto the screen and get all red when I say things like entering with the thrust. I'm pretty sure she'd have that same reaction even if it weren't for the White Claws, but make sure nobody's crawling up the drain pipe. Maybe somebody was crawling up the drain pipe. Oh, you're back. All right. So now that you got those, like those are some good 1-2 combinations, right? You got the X's, right? And then we talked about, I'm not gonna reteach lonely shit. Like I told people this morning, I went, hey, a guy I know already taught this exact thing earlier this week and has it for sale. So I'm not gonna undercut, like go learn this from him. But kind of the following one side of the X stuff. You know what I mean? Like what we were talking about before. So that kind of stuff, that becomes important in the Tri-V. But the other component of it, aside from this, is the reverse stuff. So reverse 2 and reverse 1. So reverse 2 is Malayu, right? Right. You're starting on your forehand side of your body, and then you cut to the backhand side. Yeah. Right. And then its counterpart is reverse 1. So when you're here, cutting that side. So you're on your backhand side, and you're doing this kind of thing. Maybe you've been in the seatbelt and you step back, and you're still here and you haven't started moving your hand around. Might be here, you step here. You're in like off lead, step back, cut. Right here. So reverse 1, reverse 2. That becomes the third component to the tri-V stuff. So I know you already know what this is, so I'm just gonna kind of like briefly run through an explanation that I'd be giving to people anyway. So the tri-V material is part of a discrete block of combinations within the Pikiti Tertia Kali system. And it all works off of these sort of 3-strike combinations. They break it down into open top and closed top combinations. There's like, I don't know, I think like maybe 9 possible or 10 possible ways you could throw this. But I sort of have 2 that I focus on. And so the first one being, you can use these 3-strike combinations in a lot of different contexts. Contexts? Is that a word? Yeah. The context can be varied for when you're going to throw a tri-V combination, but it's really flexible so that you really can use it in multiple situations. But just for the sake of explanation here, the first cut is going to be to bridge the gap between yourself and your opponent. The second one is going to attack their arm or their stick. And then the third one would be to score a hit either on their head or body or whatever. So the first tri-V combination that I use pretty frequently would be to throw a forehand diagonal and then a backhand rising on that same line. So 1, 2, like that. It's the opposite of that picture from the European handbooks. It's 1, 2. It's descending, rising. With footwork, it would probably be like cutting out as I step here and then cutting back in, cutting backhand as I step back in. So I've made this triangle. Right, my first step takes me here. My second step takes me there. Obviously, there's the hypotenuse makes the triangle. You didn't know there was going to be trigonometry involved today, but there is. So first strike, second strike. The third strike becomes that reverse 2 and it comes around your head. So from out here, I'm going to first strike, second strike, third strike. So hopefully what you're doing here is you throw 1 strike from your forehand side, a second strike from your backhand side. A third strike also comes from the backhand side, but comes at a different height. So they're not like changing levels with your strikes is great in any striking art, whether it's with weapons or empty hand. You know, even if you're shanking somebody in a prison situation, you know, if you're just coming with this line, they might block you. But if you throw in one of these once in a while, it's going to be a lot harder to stop you. So same principle with long weapons or with no weapons at all. You want to be able to change levels as often as possible. Keep the guy's computer working. So cut to here, cut to there, cut in. Right. Forehand, backhand, backhand. Forehand, backhand, backhand. And here's the place where that Friley style cut comes in. You can do it either way, especially, so this is where the context part matters. So say, instead of just using this to bridge the gap, maybe I hit his stick out of the way. If I hit his stick out of the way, I'm not going to necessarily try and just flick it away again. I hit his stick out of the way, maybe I can hit him in the hand, or maybe I can hit him in the leg, or maybe, you know, maybe I can reach his head with this one and then come in and finish him with another one. So here, instead of it being this flicky motion, I'm doing a more powerful cut out and cut in. I have to be careful again because of my lamp and fan. But so here is more of a power strike, power strike, power strike. Or maybe it's, you know, smoothly just cover the distance, flick his stick, flick his head. It all comes down to how you intend to use the combination and your own sort of aggression and attitude when you fight. right? Then from the other side, it's cut, cut, cut. Cut, cut, cut. Cut, cut, cut. So once you kind of get a little bit of a feel for the forehand to backhand, now we switch to the other side. Now we switch to the backhand, forehand. So same thing, picking out a shot, cut a backhand. Now we come up on the forehand angle and throw number one afterwards. So this one, right? Your first cut is the backhand, then rising forehand, whether it's a bolo strike or whatever. This one, I almost always suggest guiding with the knuckles, but you can kind of bitch slap motion if you want with a stick as opposed to the sword. Some people get comfortable throwing it like this as opposed to like this. So that's all personal preference with the stick. So backhand, forehand. All right. Backhand, forehand. Backhand cut, forehand. Yeah. Backhand. Backhand, forehand. Switch to the other side. Backhand, forehand. Backhand, forehand. Whoa. Oh.
Don't break anything.
I'm not gonna break anything.
I'm not gonna break it. I broke it.
I didn't break. Steve broke it. It was Steve. It was Steve. Even the dog's like, I'm taking no part in this. I was in my left hand. My left hand's my complementary hand. So cut backhand, cut forehand. Backhand, forehand. Backhand, forehand. Backhand. Wow. Backhand, forehand. Yeah, there we go. I haven't done nearly as much work with my left lately as I should be doing, and it's getting kind of spastic. So backhand, forehand. Yeah, and that's kind of where my notes are. It took me a longer time to run through that stuff with those guys this morning because I had to explain a lot more. You don't take that much explanation. It's kind of like, all right, do it. Ryan has 1,000 questions. Oh boy. Last Sunday was Super Bowl, and he must have had a couple of pops before he got on the call. He was a bit disruptive. He promised me he wasn't gonna have any old English this morning before he came. I was like, oh, I don't care. You could just tell the other guys why you ask so many stupid fucking questions.
Oh, man.
Well, he logged on and he had a big can of old English and he cracked it open. I was like, oh, getting into the OE, huh? And he was like, oh, I've already been into it. Oh, I see. All right. It is halftime, I guess. So
Yeah.
But yeah, so yes, this is like what I'd consider. I think I did like a basic single stick with people at some point, but this would be like 102. This is putting it together. Once you can do this is cut, this is step, I would consider this to be. I guess I would call this like maybe single stick 3 because roof block strike, umbrella block strike, I think is almost more important. No?
It's more, I guess, more primal probabilities, I guess. You do that, to survive.
Well, I was gonna say it's teaching them to block. Like blocking is part of the thing.
Block and hit,
Block and hit, yeah.
But, like even before I knew like Kirby, it's like I don't know if you knew Raw Dog. Like he's not active anymore, but that's
I don't know Raw Dog.
So like he would have us just like, like caveman roof block, like and like with different timing. And it's like, oh wow, like years later, it's like, oh, I was doing like Kirby all along. He's like, guess what? As soon as you swing, someone's hitting your head, so you better block it real quick. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, that's good advice.
Yeah.
Good advice. As soon as you swing, they're gonna swing right back at you.
Yes.
Like, nobody likes having a
whatever attack you have, you're leaving yourself open for something.
Yep. Yeah. No, that's so maybe I would consider this stuff like one more step down the line. And honestly, like with some people, I know I wouldn't get out of that first block of material, like before we even got to the forehands and backhands, and I'm sorry, to the forehand with the horizontal or the forehand thrust. Like I could have cut this into two classes, but like I said, I don't have to change much. You know what I mean? You're gonna do certain things the way you're gonna do them because that's how you've been training them now for years already, and it's easier for you to follow along than somebody that's like, oh, how do I do? Ryan's good to have around because he's just got enough that he's mostly moving along, but if he hits a stumbling block, he'll stop me immediately and be like, how does this work? Or like, what was I supposed to do here? Or, whatever. I don't know if he's like that in person.
That's when we haven't trained that much in person. He hurt his hip and everything.
Yeah.
So it's probably been like 5 months since I've seen him in person. Maybe less, maybe 4 months, 3 months.
Yeah.
But like, he'll ask questions, but usually like I'll show something and like everyone breaks up. It's like certain guys, like I could just look over and like, all right, they're doing it. These guys, let me spend time. And it's like, all right, I'll walk over to the other guys. Like, all right, now let me show you like a different variation because of like when this happens in a fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's different too. Like when you do it on Zoom and when you're doing it in person, like,
yeah,
like try V. Like I think it's interesting. I think it's like very simple, but I think there's a lot of elegance to it. Like if you actually have another person, it's like, oh, like on this variation, he's starting with the caveman. So you're hitting him here, here, and here. But on this variation, it's like this. And if you do it left versus right, you know what I mean? Lefty versus righty, it's like, here's the same fucking combo, but like, some different ways on like how it applies. So like I was saying, like when we were chatting on text, like I thought that's what like Sled Dog was going to like teach like that, but he did it all like Sombrado range and like, I don't know. I'm like retarded with Sombrado range and shit. Like it's cool, but like if you ask me to remember more than like 3 moves and then like I have to go through like 10 3-move cycles and like, oh, like fucking I'm lost. I'm like, dude.
Yeah.
Like I'll do it. I'll try, but
the only thing that I've found from learning from Sled Dog that I don't really love is that he does kind of focus on that range with how he teaches stuff. Yeah. Like Phil, I think he thinks people expect that because he's Mr. Pikiti. Like you expect some 14-step thing where you disarm the guy twice and crank his arm up and stuff like that. But get out of here, man. When does that work?
Yeah, show me like
when does that work?
Weapons range. Do the same thing, but from weapons range.
Yeah.
That's what
and it doesn't.
Obviously, he knows it because he does it.
Yeah.
Well,
that's the thing too. Phil does like just with that roof block thrust. He covers things in a way that he gets inside. He also eats a couple of hits. Like he's a tough bastard. Like that's just how he is, and he always has sort of fought that way, where he closes in fast, gets some hard thrusts in, and then does some shit. But like, I don't know if he could do that to me. Not now, anyway. He's fucking
he's a lot older now.
Old. He's 60 something. But like even back then, you take 36-year-old Phil versus 36-year-old me, like. The game has progressed, man. Like, I don't know if you're going to be able to do that. I have an idea of how to keep someone from closing on me in that nature. And I'm definitely not gonna let you grab my limbs and start twisting them around and shit. Like I'm gonna punch you or headbutt you immediately. It's part of
my knife.
Yeah.
I remember the first Canadian gathering, like during the match, like I was like, whatever, I can like do this and that. I'm like, it's just so apropos. It's just so nice for me to just take out my knife and stab him. And then Phil's like, oh, you killed him. It's awesome, Steve. But he's like, usually we don't do that here. My first response was, what do you mean? Foxhound is here. It's not acceptable.
Yeah.
He's laughing. He's like, yeah.
They go with the European style of like the knife is dirty.
Yeah.
Whereas we're like, stab, hold him down and stab him. Like, put your finger in his eye.
It opens up your eyes. I mean, it's like the more I fight in gatherings, the more I don't want to fight in the street because like that's what's gonna happen. You know what I mean? Like, fuck the rear naked choke, defend the knife, man. Like, you know.
Yeah. That's. I mean, it's all circumstantial. You know, it's all in the context of the fight. I like playing the game that we play in Dog Brothers, and I like getting good at doing that game. But if I were in a fight in the street, I wouldn't mount a guy and start punching him anyway. Because you're gonna kill somebody doing that. You know what I mean? Like I just wouldn't do that. I wouldn't go down there. You know, if I would prioritize a throwdown over a takedown. And if I got taken down and I swept and got on top, I did that grapevine thing or whatever, and I got on top, I wouldn't move to staple his arm, punch him in the face 2 times, and then take out my knife and stab him. That's committing murder. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not. But for the sake of the game we play and every style of armed combat up until guns, that's what you did. Like, you throw the guy on the ground, you hit him a couple of times, and you finish him off with your knife. The samurai did it. The knights did it. It is what it is. But when it comes to like the moral implication of doing it in the real world, like you see the home that you live in, you're not living in that environment. Like you want to go back to your house at the end of the day. But you have to be aware of that sort of implication once a fight begins, maybe somebody else is going to try and do that to you. You know, how do you stop it? And the more primal options you have, the better, you know.
Especially like after watching The Joker the other day.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah. That was great flick, but psycho.
It's like you feel bad for the guy. It's like this could really happen, and these are like the steps of how people get there, you know?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
There's like a lot of people like that in Manhattan now. It's crazy. Oh yeah, so like 2 days after I watched the movie, like Tom, who trains with in my group, he he lives in Manhattan. He sends me like a picture. It's like, oh, another stabbing in the subways, and the guy's just like laying on the subway fucking bench, like blood everywhere. Like, shit, man.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. I wouldn't want to be there right now.
The thing is, though, like you start getting used to it again, and that's when people like,
right?
You know, that you start getting used to the amount of homeless, crazy people, and you ignore them, and like they don't pay attention, and like they're just in la la land with their cell phones and shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't do that. You have to be alert. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, Fresno's like that. I was on my way to work the other day, and I saw a guy riding his bike with fucking machete on his back.
Oh shit!
Like a clear meth head, like homeless dude, just machete on his back. So here, California's got weird knife laws. You can have anything as long as it's exposed. Like you can't. Yeah, you can't conceal it, which is hilarious because I have a kukri or a tomahawk in my backpack all the time. I'm like, I wouldn't wear that out. It makes people nervous.
Yeah.
I set it up in my.
Concealed it. Oh, but like the other guy was walking with the fucking tomahawk in his hand. Oh, that's okay.
Yeah. I'm like, what do you mean? Like nobody. So in my bag in the laptop sleeve, I have my kukri rigged up so that I could just draw it like off my. I essentially could do what that guy was gonna do, but nobody knows I could do it. Like, I'm not, that's in case I run into this shit. Like, I'm traveling between work and home. I don't know what's going to go down. And we do have like a pretty good homeless population, and the meth, the tweakers here are absolutely, I thought junkies at home were bad, but like tweakers are active. Junkies are all sluggish and shit. Like, you don't have to worry about the same thing. So the tweakers are like fucking zombies, dude. Not all of them. I've met some people that are more high functioning meth users. But the really visible people, like in construction especially, some of the guys that I met when we were out on construction are like, yeah, you are all fucking tweaked out. But and the people that cut wood for the barbecue place now, those guys, we have these two dudes that show up, and they don't do a great job, but they're out there for hours with a chainsaw and a splitter and then stacking the wood. And they do it for like $100 and a couple of plates of barbecue. We'll be out there for like 8 hours with two of them. There you go. It's all out here. There's all these agricultural places that have different, they all have different crops, but the trees can only be used for so many years, and then they got to cut them down. And, I don't know whether they have to like replenish the soil somehow or whatever, but there's always trees being cut down. They got to do something with them. So they buy all the wood, and these tweakers come out and cut it up for us. But anyway, it is, even though I tend to push such things away, such fake holidays as Valentine's Day, I am going to make dinner for Heather. So I'm probably going to wrap it up here. But that was cool, man. Thank you for running through my material with me tonight. Figuring next weekend, these links, the two I sent you, the one for this morning and this one, I finally figured out how to do a recurring.
Oh, okay,
class.
cool.
So now, people keep asking me like, are the same links as last week? And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I don't understand. And then I realized today, I was like, oh, I can just set this to do it every Sunday. I don't have to keep making this again and again. So I got this set through April for now. And then
all right, cool.
We'll go from there. But yeah, next weekend Heather's away, so I'll do like a Saturday night thing. I don't know if you're around on Saturday night. Usually Catch Dog's on his way to work, so he'll jump on, and sometimes Ryan. But it's kind of late night, it's like 7 or 8 for me.
Yeah.
So,
Shoot me a link.
Yeah, I'll let you know. We usually have a couple of beers and like do a little bit of training, and then just like last week we talked about that crazy shooting in Pennsylvania.
Oh, I didn't hear about that one.
Oh, dude, the one where the guy shot the people over the snow. His neighbors were just total assholes, and they've been tormenting him for quite a while. And he pulled his piece, and they were like,
this guy was like, his neighbors were like shoveling their snow into his like yard across the street. Like pretty much just like
going across the full fucking street.
Pretty much. And I guess it like fucking elevated it. Like, yeah, it's crazy.
And so eventually they started calling him a pussy and going, what are you going to do? Shoot us? Can you imagine where it went from there? Yeah, he shot him. But he didn't just shoot him. Like, he shot him with the pistol. Then he goes back in his house. He comes out with the rifle. And he finishes both of them off. And then he kills himself.
Oh,
it was rough. It was rough.
You go into the house. Boom.
Yeah, he went in the house and you could hear him shooting the guy going, who's the pussy now? Oh, yeah.
Wow.
It was rough. It was tough to watch. But we talked about that kind of at length, and like how, what are you going to do? Shoot me is a stupid set of last words to have.
Yeah, seriously.
But
I saw a good shovel fight a couple of years ago. One of my my wife's cousins like sent me a video. It's like, oh, Steve, you'll like this. Same thing. Like, like you threw like some snow on my thing. Dude, the guy like had a nasty freaking like Malayu, like this, like with the shovel. I was like, holy shit. Like they were like clanking shovels. I was like, yo, this is good. So his head's gonna get split open.
Was it Russia?
No.
Oh.
I mean, like, you know, her she's like her you know, cousin's Russian, but like I don't think the neighbors were. I don't know.
I didn't know if it was in Russia.
No.
Yeah.
This was they were like in Connecticut at the time.
Oh.
Yeah. So yeah.
They're in Connecticut. Good. I
I
hope
don't-
they both got head injuries.
Yeah, I don't know. Just shit.
Oh,
I don't know. It's
shit.
just snow, man. Like fuck, let it go.
Snow drives people crazy, man. The snow drives people nuts. I've seen people get in fistfights over parking spots. So you guys don't have that much, like New York, there's not that many people with cars because you just can't have them really. But at home, shoveling out your parking spot and putting like a lawn chair or a cone there is a thing.
yeah,
Like, that's sacred. You leave it alone. Oh man. I've seen people straight up like just smash people's cars, fist fights over it. Oh yeah.
I mean, in the suburbs, yeah, I guess, you know.
Oh yeah, it's a big deal. You dig out your parking spot and some motherfucker takes it.
Yeah.
It's on. Anyway, man. Cool. I'm gonna go make dinner and do the thing. I'll catch you this week. I'm
Take it
sure.
easy, fellas. Thanks,
Guys,
brother.
thank you for checking it out. Get at me a little later and we talk about stuff.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
All right. Take it easy,
Yeah.
boys. Have a good night. Bye.